It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This is the Cosmic Voice. Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmic Voice. This is Season 5, Episode 13. I am here with my co-host, Chris Natalini.
Hello, everybody.
And I am Mick Michaels. Welcome back, everyone, to another show. Chris.
Mick.
How you feeling today?
Doing wonderful, my brother. Doing wonderful. The day that we are recording this, it is bright and early. We're good, man. I am good. I'm awake. Got my coffee. I'm ready to go. Let's talk some music.
All right, let's do this. We're just past mid-season for us.
We are. It's crazy how fast it goes. It's crazy how fast time literally goes. I mean, I know that's, a thing everybody says, and parents say, you say it all the time. Oh, it's going to be, goes by so fast. And I'm like, yeah. Well, guess what? I'm, 52 now, and it literally is full. I'm on the back nine now. You know what I mean? Like, this is crazy, bro. This is crazy. Yeah, man, we're moving along, and we're halfway through the season at this point. It's awesome, bro. It's awesome. We're almost half, I guess.
Yeah, and this has been a good season for us overall. I mean, I've been really enjoying the topics, and like we were talking about before we went on air, numbers are looking good, so people are listening.
Excited about
kind of excited. Like our numbers, we have them all over the place, different platforms. So you have to go around and go, okay, this number, that number, this number. And then we have some numbers that really don't register anywhere except on that platform in terms of, like, say, some of our Facebook postings of videos or the podcast. But, hey, listen, it all adds up that somebody's listening.
Yeah, man.
Kind of the whole goal, isn't it, right? Somebody's listening?
Yeah, 1,000%. Sometimes somebody will come up to me and go, hey, man, heard the new show. And somebody said to me, I guess last weekend, I think I was out and about, and somebody said, hey, man, heard the show. It was really good. And I'm like, well, thanks. So it's super cool. It's super cool.
Yeah, I've heard from some people who I would never guessed would have listened to the show. Like, actually, I don't even see why they would listen to the show. They have really nothing to do with the music business, but they listen to the show. It's probably because of you.
No, please. I think it's funny. This morning, actually, I saw someone posted on one of our posts that I believe you did in one of the groups, and they were like, oh, I'm going to listen to the new one, and I don't remember the gentleman's name. I'm not going to call him out. He posted underneath. He was like, oh, looking forward to hearing this show, or I didn't get a chance to listen yet. And I was like, oh, it's kind of interesting. Like, I mean, obviously, him through the band, but I was like, that's kind of cool. Like, I don't know who this gentleman is, but it was kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm surprised at sometimes finding out who's actually listening to the show. Because I don't go around and ask, hey, have you heard my show?
Right.
I don't do any of that.
Right.
We've talked about this before. I don't cross-promote. Like, I don't promote the show with my band the band with my show.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of tacky. And it's,
I agree.
That's just my personal preference, but maybe other people would think it not so much, but whatever. I don't go around, hey, check out my show, this, that. Usually people will bring it up in an interview or something. Oh, yeah, by the way, I hear you do a show. And I'm like, it's, that's the show. It is kind of cool when you find out that people are listening. You're not soliciting. Because we do our posts and, and that. And I don't think that we clobber people over the head with it. I think that's one of the reasons why we don't hammer away with too many sponsors. Not that we're against having sponsors, because, it could help and maybe get us better sound effects. Like this morning, I'm actually drinking Coke Zero, even though I'm not allowed to say that on, but whatever. It's a brand product. Yeah, listen.
What is that? What happened?
I got, my daughter had to buy one, get one free, and she says, well, Dad, here you go. It's like gold now. That case is gold, so I'm kind of like, kind of working it in.
Sipping it like a good brandy.
Exactly. Because, when you've been doing Stars and Stripes for a while, it's like...
That's right.
My daughter goes, Dad, that's like water. I go, yeah, I know. The caffeine count in that doesn't even count. There's nothing in there.
It's like negative numbers.
It's like negative numbers. You know what I mean? It's like beyond diet. But
no, but it is, man. It's super cool, and I think the one thing that I do like, and I don't know if we've actually ever even talked about it, but you and I have actually just kind of done it, on our own. When you said about cross promoting, and you and I have, I don't ever remember you and I actually ever having a conversation about it, but I never wanted it to be like, hey, like even sometimes I noticed on the show, sometimes we will, but we don't really mention our band names either that often. I mean, we have, but we really don't. I think it's interesting that you and I both have the same thought process where we've never actually even said it out loud to each other, not that I remember. Never wanted to be that person. It wasn't about promoting our bands. It was more or less just promoting the ideas of being in a band, right? And trying to survive or trying to make something of it. And I think it's, one of the other things about doing the show that I love immensely.
You want that listener immersion, in my opinion. That's what makes a good movie. You get immersed into the movie and you feel like you're one of the characters, or you could be a character. You could be, their characters are relatable, which if you read some of the stats today, a lot of people are complaining that the character development is not relatable to most people. They're throwing in all these different types of characters, but they'll say, well, life is diverse, yes, but life is not like what we're seeing. Right. In our day, when Stallone and Schwarzenegger were the action heroes of the time, that was sensationalized, over the top stuff. But for some reason, maybe there was a piece of it that you wanted to be like, or you felt like you could be like, or you could see yourself doing this. You get lost in the story, right? Or the non-realism, in a sense. Sometimes we're trying to make it so real, it's like it becomes mundane. It's like, well, this is what I'm going to the movies or trying to watch TV to escape from. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I've actually just started watching House, that TV show. I know it's been off the air for quite a long, but I didn't really watch it in its original run. I'm enjoying it, and I actually get lost in it and saying, man, I could see myself. Well, I could see myself as a doctor. Yeah, right. But but it's like, and then you go to yourself, man, I wish I was that intelligent to figure these things out. So you kind of buy into it. Like, you can get, just using that as an example, somebody may not like that show, but I'm just saying from my personal experience, I can connect to some of the characters, like some traits or, whatever. But then there's new shows that I think you watch and you're like, I've been suffering through watching the new Willow, and I don't know if you've seen it. And I can't get...
I have not.
I stopped. I said, that's it. I'm done. I can't. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's not even George Lucas anymore, so whatever. I can't get connected to any of the characters. None of the characters even fit together, and the cast doesn't seem to fit together. This is, again, my opinion. You have people with accents, people without accents. I understand that's how real life is. I get it. But you can't put it in that kind of error timepiece, and then you have somebody talking like they just came off the streets of New York. It just isn't working for me.
Right.
And there's been a lot of shows where, you get excited to watch. I'll be honest with you, I started watching Wednesday.
Okay.
I didn't like it the first 2 episodes. I'm like,
I mean, you said that.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden something switched and I really started to like it, and it got better. And it got better and better and better, and I thought I don't think it ended very well. But I thought that, it's interesting enough that I was going to go watch another season. I felt that way about Sandman. Mm-hmm. And now, I was not familiar with the comic book at all. Our singer, Frankie, in the 90s was so into that. Like, he knew it, collected it, the whole bit, that underground thing. So I watched the first episode, and I'm like, oh, man, I'm missing something. Like, I'm thinking, maybe I am getting too old. And I'm starting to, you know what I mean? Like, things are just starting to, maybe over my head. You know what I mean? I'm not exactly sure. Maybe I need to just watch the Weather Channel. Maybe that's why older people watch the Weather Channel. They don't have to really get engaged.
Right. They don't have to think about it.
They don't have to think about it. They just have to repeat numbers. Oh, my God, 96 in Florida. Thank God we're not there. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. But then all of a sudden I started to realize, because it seemed disjointed, but apparently the comic book was disjointed too. It was all over the place. Then I realized, and I'm not giving anything away because they kind of followed the comic book, the whole bottom line premise of that series was the guy just wanted his stuff back. And he, it was you know what I mean? Kind of like John Wick. Somebody killed his dog, and everybody's going to pay.
Everybody's going to die. Yeah.
So once you could get to that kind of the core, and it makes sense, then all of a sudden everything clicks for the viewer. Or even with the music, it's the same thing. Like, some music is so intricate that only a small percentage of people like it.
Yeah.
Right? And it gets hard.
It's true.
Like,
It's true.
Like, I can
100%.
appreciate some of it, but after a while, I'm like, you know what? Just give me 3
Yeah.
chords. Just give me 3
Yeah.
chords, please. And a repetitive chorus that plays to nausea. So anyway, back to the show. I'm glad that people can kind of pick something and they can kind of immerse themselves into it rather than hearing my band's name over and over and over and over. Because I don't want to hear it all the
100%,
time.
yep.
Right?
Yeah,
It's about the
100%,
experience. Because some of our experiences kind of transcend just the current bands that we're in. They're bands that don't exist anymore. And, you know, musicians that aren't even around anymore that I worked with. But I still had those experiences, and I hope they're
Experiences. Yeah. It's 100%, man. 100%.
It's Russ the Boss.
Take it down. This is Stephen Pearson from Rat, the Rat Bastard. You're listening to the Cosmic Voice.
All right, so that's a lot of something about nothing to get to this. So tonight's topic is starting with a vision. So you have some ideas, you know, what do you do with it? Chris is here to tell you. What do you think, buddy?
Well, you know, I'm going to refer back to season 1, episode 1, where we talked about what is success. Like, I think your first, to me, in my opinion, I think the first thing when you're coming up with vision is, what do you want to do? What is your path? Where do you want to, what do you want to try to do? What do you want to succeed? And what is success, right? Like, again, like I said, in our very first episode, is what was the person's success? What is success to me may not be success to you. So you need to figure out, like, where you want to be. What is the end goal, right? Like, is it just to put out, just music, and not tour, not do shows, not do the social media thing. You just want to put out music and put it out to your friends and family, like that, whatever. So you need to figure out exactly what your final goal is in the end. What are you shooting for? And then kind of start from there. I mean, and then kind of build off of that. I guess you could write, what are they called? Like vision boards, or, you write down on paper, like, what do you want to do? What do you want to succeed? What do you need to do to get each step? I used to journal when I was younger because school made us journal and it was cool. I don't do it anymore, but I hear how great it is for people's mental health, which I'm sure we're going to talk about that at some point during the season. Write that stuff down, man. When I was kind of going through my thing and trying to get a new project together, I literally sat down and said, this is what I want to achieve. In the very short amount of time, I've achieved pretty much a good portion of it. I mean, I have a ways to go, but I'm just starting. Figure out what you want to do, man. Write that stuff down so you can actually see it. My mom was always big on lists. Like, she would write down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. She would go through the week, and then she would write down things of what she wanted to do on said day. And then as she would do them, she would cross them off. So she could see the progress during the week, or even just during that day, and what you didn't finish on that day, she would move to the next day and kind of go on down the line. So by Sunday, but when she would write a new list for the week, she could see what she accomplished. So you saw her goals being crossed off. That's something that, again, like I went through in the past couple, the past 2 plus years of going through some, musical things and a little change in my career that I had to go through. I wrote things down, and as I've been accomplishing them, I've crossed them off. And then, when things come, I add new and, do that. And so it's always in my face, like it's always in front of me, and it keeps me moving forward. You and I always talk about moving forward, because if you're not moving forward, you're not doing anything. And sometimes you hit that wall, and you have to realize that. Sometimes you're not going backwards, but you're not going forward. But you just got to keep pushing. Again, what is success to you? What do you want to accomplish? So that's starting with a vision, man. Figure out what you want and what you need to do. Go that route. If you have to pick one thing at a time, do one thing at a time. If it takes you a little longer than you anticipated, that's okay. Because you don't want to rush anything either, because you want it to be good. And you want it to be a good representation of what you want to do. My advice, first thing to do, sit down and make a list. No matter how difficult it may seem, or, unreachable, write it down anyway, because sometimes things will bring you around. How can I say it? So if you write something down that you think is hard or unreachable, and you reach some other little smaller goals, sometimes those smaller goals will take another route, and you end up reaching that goal that you thought was unobtainable just by another way. And then, sometimes that's how life works, man. What's that saying? One door closes, another one opens. The path may not be what you want it to be, but you'll get there. For whatever's meant for you, you'll get there.
So, just in case we need a definition,
okay,
a vision is a picture of your desired future, right? So it could be a dream. It could just be something you imagine. It could be something that you've always felt. It doesn't matter. But just to kind of put that into perspective. And as Chris was saying, I'm a huge fan of lists. I have so many lists. I have the now lists, the long-term, short-term, in-between lists. I have things for just personal. I have things for professional. I have things for not per se a bucket list, because I actually hate that term. Because if it's something you want to do, you just do it. It shouldn't be on it. Are there things you want to achieve? Yeah, I get it. But a lot of people put together, in my opinion, bucket lists, and they just never do anything about it. Yeah. I learned so long ago, when I was very young, once I committed that to a list, like I actually physically took the time and wrote it down, I got to make that happen. I got to fulfill that, because otherwise I just wasted a possibility, an opportunity.
So for you, if you, in your head, once you put it to paper, that's something you need to accomplish, right? Like that's your thing. Like once you physically write it down, now it's become real. Now you have to do it. Oh, that's
absolutely. A lot of people.
That's the way to look at it. Okay.
Well, because you put some urgency to it. It's tangible now because you wrote it. Some people go, if you say it, you put it out in the universe, and then you let it go and you see what happens. Okay, I get that too, because I've done that kind of stuff. Especially for the stuff that from the very beginning I could go either way with. Having it would be good, but I'm not going to lose anything if I don't. If you approach some things like that and you put it out verbally, that's okay. But when it's something that you know, like whether it's a job or some type of education or relationship that you want to have or whatever, for me, when I put it on a list and I've committed that to write it and I see it, I'm a fan of vision boards. I used to use them in my 20s. And my early 30s. But I also wound up looking at lists as the same way, because I would look at those lists every day. Every day I look at lists, and on my desk I have probably 3 or 4 lists. Now some people would say, hey, that's OCD, you have this. Now, listen, you can call it whatever you want. It's been working for me. Do I hit everything out of the park? Absolutely not. If you've listened to the show, you'll know. But I have a model that I've seen success with.
Yeah.
And part of understanding success is knowing when things don't succeed.
Do you have one for your personal life, like outside of the band? Like, do you have one for like honey-do lists, like at home, stuff with the family?
Oh, yeah, I mean, there's things like honey-do lists. Again, I can't. That drives me insane. You know what I mean? Because if you know my wife, it's usually me, the one that's breaking more of the stones, and it's myself doing it. You got to do this. What's the matter here? You know. So I just had that conversation this morning. Believe it or not, but
leave her alone.
Leave her alone. I mean, she's got her own lists. You know what I mean?
But, yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Leave your list to yourself. I do have personal lists. There's lists like, hey, this has to be done, this has to be done, almost like punch lists. And sometimes those then have subcategories that you have to do all this before that full title is achieved, right? So that, like you said, it keeps you progressing, it keeps you moving forward, and some things open up other things. Like, I have to do this before I can get to this, and so on and so forth. Yeah. On the personal end, what I've done is I have a little spiral notebook of things that I want to have and or achieve in my lifetime. I'm just going to throw out some things. These aren't necessarily on my list, but they're like, I want to own a 57 Gibson Les Paul.
Okay.
I want a 4x4 pickup truck 4-door. You know, whatever.
Yeah,
I
got
you.
I got you.
I want to be 7 feet tall. Yeah, right. Hey, listen, a boy could dream.
Need to buy stretching rack.
Need to buy stretching rack and those $150 Gene Simmons boots. That at least, well, you know what? Even those, they're 7-inch. Right, so that doesn't get me. That gets me to maybe 6'1", maybe if I'm lucky. 6. I don't, on a good day. I'm not sure. You know, earlier in the show we were talking about how time's flying. I often look at my life as like, if again, here's my Christmas reference. At the end, when the Grinch is soaring down the slope there with the stolen presents, and they have no brakes. And it's things are flying. That's kind of how, like, time's been going for me.
Hey, listen, just for reference, in case anybody's counting, we have already referenced Kiss and Christmas.
That's right. That's right. Oh, man. Now, some people tell you, read them every morning, read them every night, right? So you're committing them to your consciousness, right? And even your subconsciousness, because things could open up and you're not even consciously trying to do anything for it, but it's out there in the universe, that type of thing. I do that sometimes. I go into like little spurts where I'll do that, and other times I don't. I'll reference it maybe once a week, a couple times, because I have so many other lists that I'm focusing on.
Yeah.
But even though I don't look at the lists, I do take tally of it in my brain. I'm a firm believer in lists. It keeps you accountable, because at the end of the day, no matter what, no one's going to be able to keep you accountable but yourself. And if you and if you can't follow your own regimen, what results do you expect to have?
Yep.
Right. And that's not saying it's a downer and you might as well not. No, it's just you have to be honest with yourself. And part of understanding success, and whatever you define success is understanding what those strengths and weaknesses are that we each possess, because we all have them. All of us as artists have some talent that other people don't have, that other artists may not possess. We need to really focus on that, not so much on the weaknesses. Because if we focus on the weaknesses, the strengths begin to diminish and we don't get to move forward. That's not to say that we don't consider the weaknesses or the things that I like to say that are not as strong. Because weaknesses, then people put, I don't want to be weak. And it creates this whole mental picture and sometimes an emotional picture that may be too much for some people to handle, right? Ego gets in the way. I'm not weak. Because I can pound you. I'll pound you. I'll show you how weak I am. Yeah. Anyway.
You are listening to The Cosmic Voice with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels.
If I do have things that aren't so strong, surround them with the strengths to make them stronger. Because those things that aren't as strong may never get as strong as your strengths.
That's right.
But they can improve if you surround them with things that are stronger. Right? Which kind of leads me to, so you have a vision, right? Everybody has visions. We all have vision. I mean, and as artists, you probably have tons of visions. I think we have to kind of weigh them out. What is a vision that really resonates with me? Like when we talk about the sustainable trueness to your craft, doing what's true to you is sustainable, and you'll be able to excel at it, and your audience will be able to experience it in such a way because they know it's being honest. So if you're trying to achieve some goal that really doesn't resonate with you, and maybe this is something you learn as you get older and you kind of fall on your face quite a number of times on the way up or hit your face on the way down a lot of times, which has been more of the case, you start looking at these things and you go, okay, well, maybe that wasn't what I really needed or wasn't right for me, but if I focus on this, which seems to kind of keep popping up, maybe I'll get greater success. So, if you have a vision, fantastic. It's a great place to start. So if you can imagine it, then you can plan it. And I think from that point forward, you got to have some kind of plan. And if that plan is just throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall, which I've done, which I still do, okay, that's great. But have a plan to that as well.
Yep.
Maybe because sometimes you put the vibe out as much as you can, something's going to come back. Sooner or later, that message in the bottle is going to come up somewhere. Someone's going to see it. You may be dead by the time they see it, but someone's going to see it.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So if you have that plan, you just lay it out, and that could be a list. It could be, today I do this, tomorrow I do that, whatever the case. Long-term, short-term goals, in-between goals. Like we talked about this before. Make certain goals that you know are achievable. That will help propel you forward. Things that maybe you've been holding off or screwing around with or you've just ignored or whatever, just do them. Get them out of the way. It really changes your perspective, and it gives you motivation for the next set. If I can do that, I can do this. And if I could do this, I could do that. One feeds the other. It's a positive cycle. It really is. It's amazing.
It is. And I think that, sometimes too, if you have a list of things that you need to do, sometimes I've seen, even in my life, I don't write a lot of stuff down, but in my own head, I can look back and go, oh yeah, I never realized that until actually after it happened. But sometimes, let's just say you write something down, you write a list down and one thing happens. And at that moment, it may take two or three things, or it may give you another way to look at something. So you may cut your list down by, a couple of things that you're trying to achieve because the one thing you did achieve was better than you expected. So then you go, oh, okay, well, guess what? Now I can move all these out and then your list got shorter. You know what I mean?
Right, and the ripples are greater.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
100%. Yep.
Now, this may be an OCD thing, but I actually keep all my lists. I have lists that date back 20-some years that I've,
That's
you know,
awesome.
once you check them off, I just put them away. And I've actually gone back over time and, you know, looked over and said, you know, what have I done? Like, you know, oh, wow, yeah, I remember doing that. Or, you know, and sometimes there's a thought process to it, because if I'm kind of stuck somewhere and I've gone back through some of these older lists, like say, you know, I'm booking a tour, this kind of tour that I haven't booked in a couple years, and I go back and I go, what did I do? You know, because listen, we're human. And it seems like I forget more and more than I remember anymore. But so you go back and you go, what did I do then? That I'm, you know, because we all say, oh, we've done this before, I could do it again. And we can. But sometimes we may be missing something. Or we may have had something on the list that we didn't put again because we just took it for granted. Because sometimes that happens. When you make a little bit, you get a little success, you kind of forget you shortchange it just a little bit, right?
Yep.
But sometimes going back over that is a way. And again, that's something that I do occasionally, but I do save my lists. I actually even save all my old calendars as well, because
I do.
Because I often go back over and go, you know, like, you know, when I achieve certain dates, or there's a historical reference for me. You know, it's a process that I go through, and may not be for everybody. So, you know, once you got this plan, you got to remember, don't limit yourself. You can't say, oh, that isn't going to happen for me. That isn't going to, you know, listen, there are some things that probably for some of us aren't achievable, right? Like, I'm never going to be able to take off like Superman. It doesn't, you know, I've tried. I think I just tried this morning getting out of bed. I'm like, dun-dun-dun. It didn't work. You know, like, dun-dun-dun. So it took me a little longer to get out of bed. My point is that doesn't mean that I can't strive for something similar or something in that vein.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
So I don't want to limit myself. And the worst that can happen is nothing. Remember, I said I would sometimes verbally say things and put it out there into the world, into the universe, simply because I can go either way. Having it would be good, it would be great. I could probably parlay it into something else. But not having it isn't going to change where I'm at now.
Right.
It's always a positive, but it's not necessarily a negative. Okay?
Yeah.
Not trying is not having any opportunity, and not trying is limiting yourself. Now, I know Yoda says do or don't do. There is no try. Listen, that's kind of cool and all. I get it. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I love Yoda. You know, I get that. But trying means you're working towards something. You try is better than not, right? It just do or don't. There's an absolute there. And if you get into all the lore and all that, all of a sudden, Jedi weren't supposed to deal in absolutes. Remember Obi-Wan?
Right. Yeah.
Okay? So this goes back further. So it was already there. So trying means that you're diligently working towards something. But you have the option to be flexible. That if what you're trying isn't completely working, it can divert to something that maybe is. Do or don't is black or white. That's it. And I don't look at it like that. This business especially, though a lot of people say it is black and white, it ain't black and white. It's
not.
It's
really
all
not.
Gray and a kick in the nuts. That's exactly what it is. So, because at that point,
so
once you get hit down there, your eyes close and you can't see anything anyway, and then they start pummeling you on the head. There's the music business wrapped up in a nutshell.
I think also, too, I think that you have to be open for change, right? Like sometimes, you know, you want something, and this goes back again, like I'd said, to what success is to you. But sometimes you have to realize that the universe may not give you what you want, but it'll get you and give you what you need, right? And
you got it, Mick. You said it, Mick.
Right. And I think that a perfect example is, you know, and I could speak for you. I'm pretty sure I could speak for you. When you and I were younger, we wanted to be rock stars, like huge stadium touring rock stars, right? Like we wanted the whole nine. We wanted it all. Obviously, we do not have that, but we have traveled the world. We've seen things. We've played in front of thousands of people collectively. So you and I have done many things that most people will unfortunately never get to do. So you have to understand that sometimes the universe may not give you exactly what you want, but it's going to give you what you deserve or what you need. And you and I may not be playing in front of stadiums, but you and I could both sit down and go, we have traveled the world. We've seen some killer places. And that is our success, right? Like we may not be playing stadiums, but you and I could both say we've traveled far and wide and have played in front of, many people of a foreign land. That is our success. That's what we got. So we didn't get the big stadiums, but we got the full bars, full of someone from, full of people from a different language.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I mean. It's how, and we've talked about this many times. I think we even had an episode on it. It's about how you relate with success, how you translate or define success, and then what you do with that success. Mm-hmm. Right? Doing it once is cool, but if you're able to repeat it, then that means something you're doing is right. That's those strengths, right? Your model is working. Models work on different levels depending on what it is. And if it's all or nothing, if it's do or don't, well, then chances are many of our models are just going to fall flat. They're going to fall short. We're not going to ever have this opportunity. But if your model can be adjusted, it's flexible, it's endless, right? If you don't limit yourself, you'll be able to explore tons of options and opportunities. And that's what Chris is saying. Just because it didn't happen this way doesn't mean that something isn't going to happen. Because if that was the case, as artists, as metal artists, we should have gave up years ago. Sometimes I still ask, well, why didn't I stop years ago? Like, I even took a small hiatus because it was just driving me nuts. I'm like, I had to reevaluate everything that I was doing. When I started up again, I fell right back into that same dead-end model because I couldn't see past that original vision. Yeah. That didn't even exist anymore. It didn't exist, but I couldn't see past it. Do I still have that in the back of my head? Sure, man. Am I still that 15-year-old that wants to be on the... Yeah, but that doesn't mean that I've shut down everything else. Actually, that's helped me open up new opportunities, new avenues to make it work in a different way, as Chris was saying. And I've been very fortunate and very grateful. And sometimes I sit back and go, because I remind myself of who I am real quick. My band had recently done an interview, and there was 3 of us in the interview. Normally these days, we don't do that many group interviews anymore.
Right.
Schedules just don't seem to allow it at times. However, we were able to do it this time. They asked them questions, what do you feel was the greatest thing that you've done with this band? And everybody went through something. They were similar, but they each had a personal twist to it. The interviewer was kind of, sometimes, and you never know if it's how real sometimes the sentiment is, but they were, people are, kind of shocked about, oh my God, you did this, you did that. I said, here's the thing. We have a tendency, especially in this band, that we kind of help keep our feet on the ground, because we quickly remind ourselves who we are and where we came from. And sometimes we have a hard time dealing with the fact that, if we get a comment or something, instead of us being, super embracive, we kind of like to sometimes, because, again, where we came from, how we were brought up, sometimes the baggage that we're still carrying, we kind of put ourselves back into, hey, we're just these guys from so-and-so and all that. And as I started saying that, James started saying something and then he goes back to this. And I said, you see, we have this tendency to be kind of real with ourselves. So we never allow ourselves to believe that hype, that kind of stuff.
But you never realize that kind of stuff until someone reads it back to you, right? I listen to a lot of podcasts, and when there's a celebrity on, of course, the host reads the celebrity's bio, and 9 out of 10 times the celebrity goes, wow, I didn't realize, you know what I mean? I don't realize, because a lot of, especially actors, they do a movie and move on. They don't think about it. Yeah. Especially because movies are done in such a way where it takes forever to get out. So by the time that one movie comes out, they've already done 2 more. So, it's always interesting when someone reads it back to you and goes, oh, you've done this, and you go, my God, I didn't really think about it until you said it. So
yeah, you put it all together and you're like, wow. So it really is about the long haul, right?
Yeah.
There are short-term things you need to do to keep everything moving, but it's really about the long term. How do you parlay one into the next? Are there going to be down times, low times? Yeah, absolutely. I was just discussing that with my guys. COVID was a rebuild, right? It was a reset. Yeah. It's like we literally started all over again. And then we had some lift, and then it kind of as the national market started really coming back, like some of that lift that the regional and local bands were starting to get kind of started diminished. And you had to figure out how am I going to navigate this? So it takes a little bit of time, maybe a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, half a year, whatever. Could take a whole year. But if you're constantly trying, constantly progressing, not limiting yourself, exploring options and opportunity because you had a plan in place, you always go back to that plan. Then you'll find that things start working out. I've always said this, like, and we talked about this on the show. I plan things out, like I have this year plan, right? This is what we're going to try to accomplish this year. Here's the goal. We're doing this and that. That doesn't mean that it's not flexible. I can't divert from it or change gears or whatever. Get involved in other projects. Will I explore them? Yes, because I don't limit myself and I explore those options and opportunities because you never know where they're going to lead. In my case, it'd be foolish not to, okay?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I lose sight of the original plan, of the original path. Because if it doesn't work, I'm still continuing doing what I'm doing. If it does work, then I'm doing it congruently. I'm doing it in parallel with what my original plan is, because I can't just forsake my plan. Because if I start, like we talked about earlier, if I can't follow my own list, I got a problem. If I put a plan in place and then I don't follow through with it, whose fault is it? Not the record producer, not the record label, not that radio DJ with the long beard. That's not, you know what I mean?
You're listening to the Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business.
The other couple things, in my opinion, that I've always found positive results from is you work with other people who support you. Now, that doesn't mean that they're holding your hand and telling you that, hey, man, Chris, you're great, dude. You're the best. You don't need those other guys. As soon as they say that there's problems. You don't need that. You know what I mean? You don't need that coddling. But you need people that support you. Hey, listen, bro, I know you can do it. You just got to do it. Like, let's cut the BS. Make this happen. You've done it before. Listen, I know this is hard, whatever. But if you spend a little bit of time, no one said it was going to be easy. Right? And that's the truth. But just because someone says, hey, man, it ain't going to be easy, but you can get this done, doesn't mean that they're not supporting you. They actually are. That's kind of realistic. That's the kind of support you want. You don't want people fawning all over you all the time, because that's short-lived. Because there's always going to be another fire truck to chase. Right? You want that person that's like you can bounce some stuff off of. They give you good, solid criticism or good, solid, appraisal. So it all depends, and that's the kind of thing that's always been good for me, because even if you don't agree with it, it makes you think, hey, maybe I should consider this. Or if you hear it 3 times from 3 different sources, maybe it's something that you're overlooking, right? And there's a lot that you can learn from that. The other thing is that goes hand in hand is I always like working with people who've succeeded in the way that I'm looking to succeed. Now, that doesn't mean that I want their success or I want it like they have it. I feel that I've always been fortunate, and people can debate this whatever they want. I've never felt jealousy like I know some other artists have felt. Like, I'm not really jealous of other artists because I never know what people are experiencing or the headaches that they have to deal with, right?
Right.
Would I like something similar? Yeah. So I try to achieve something similar, but that works for me. Like, I realize who I am, what my strengths, what my weaknesses are, and if I'm honest with myself, I told this story once before. I think I've told it on the show. The band I was in the 80s, we had gotten a development deal, late 80s, early 90s. Unfortunately, it never went anywhere. A lot of us at that point, after the scene change, didn't go anywhere. So bummed out. We were all bummed out. It was like, oh my God.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Years later, it dawned on me, if we did get to that point, we would have never made it. We would have never made it simply because we would have imploded. Knowing the band, knowing the members, there was a lot of intensity. I'm going to use those words, and people can figure out from there. There was just so much high level. I don't think we wouldn't have survived. There would have been members that probably would have not have made it. And then the band would have never made it. And it would have been, probably would have been worse. And I thought about that. Well, maybe that was a godsend, because it put into perspective what I didn't want in a band. What I
100%.
didn't want to deal with.
Yep.
Would I have taken it at the time? Well, sure, because I didn't know. I wouldn't have known the future. I'm not saying that I would have denied it at the time, but looking back, knowing the history of the band and what individual members were involved in and how things oftentimes played out, the band was good. We wrote great songs, in my opinion. Like I said, we even had a reissue of some material that came out a couple years ago prior to COVID. Yeah. But the band would have never survived. And that's me being honest. I'm not putting it down. I'm not making excuses. We would have never... Actually, that grunge coming in probably saved us. Saved a lot of us from a lot of disaster because, you know, some people were able to kind of get cleaned up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
And that's just me being honest about that. The industry changed and that stuff isn't being as readily available these days. But, hey... It is what it is. I got to keep my integrity, and I got to keep my health and well-being, and I didn't fall into something, because who knows where I would have gone, because I was young,
right,
and I was green, just like everybody else. You know what I mean? You took it, hey, they're giving it to you, I'm taking it. And how many of us, how many of those guys, and, you know, even I got screwed, because there was material that we had did during the development deal that was held in, for a lack of a better word, hostage for most of the years that wasn't released until, you know, like maybe 10 years ago. It was given back to us as we could do whatever we want at this point. Who knows, you know? But I like to work with people that have shown successes that I would like to achieve, because then they're role models. Mm-hmm. They resonate with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cheerleaders, right? Everybody needs cheerleaders.
Yeah, cheerleaders, mentors, whatever. You know, I've met some people, some of my mentors have been, how would you say, the most socially graceful people, but they were very blunt and direct. And I grew to appreciate that, because you kind of knew where, like, you know what, because they were giving you solid advice and there was actually a care behind it, but they just weren't coddling you because of their experience in this business. And you look at it with almost a breath of fresh air. It's like, oh, man, good. This is kind of cool, because I'm not used to this, you know, and it's making me think a different way. You get people that support you in a way. That's building that network, that team that could help that vision come to life. Yeah. I've benefited from that, and I've parlayed it into positive stuff. And like we've talked about in other episodes, you can't expect people to give without you giving in return, right? This is a mutual type of thing, especially if you're trying to make it long term. Now, you may not be talking to these people every day, all the time, but you know that you could go back to them and they can come to you if in the event.
Yeah.
You know, one of the last things that I think is most important is you just got to believe, right?
That's it.
That internal thing that's like, hey, this is going to happen. Acknowledge that you are making these steps, that you are working towards. And, you know, Chris pointed out early on in the show that you're progressing. And progressing doesn't mean that you're doing miles upon miles in these big chunks. It could be small little steps, 1 or 2 steps. Yeah. And then you sit there for a little bit and you kind of ingest what's happening. You really take it in. You become hyper aware, so that, like, when you start to make your next steps, they're quality steps, not missteps. Though we're all going to make missteps all the time. Yeah. All the time. Yeah. And missteps are steps towards success. That's something else I've learned over the years. Do I still get bummed out when things are amiss? Yeah, sure. Why not?
Well, sure. That's just human nature.
But I don't let it shut me down. Actually, it fuels me. Okay, here we go. This is what we're going to do now. I got it. Okay. Yep. I took the shot. Yep. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Now I'm coming in. Get your guard up. Get your guard up.
Exactly.
What do you think, buddy? You got anything else you want to add?
No, I know, man, not at all. I think that everything starts with an idea and a vision. You know, you just have to bob and weave, man. Just go with the flow, because it's always going to change. That's it. It's always going to change. It may not be how you plan to get there, but you will get there. You just got to keep moving forward, right? And that's one thing you and I always say, just move forward.
That's right. Stick with it. Don't give up, because if you give up, the only thing you can guarantee that ain't nothing going to happen.
That's right.
If you like that episode, check out some of our other episodes at www.thecosmicvoice.com. Step into the Cosmic Verse and fill that void. Thanks so much for listening. This is the Cosmic Voice. Be sure to check us out at thecosmicvoice.com. Like and follow us on Facebook at The Cosmic Voice. You can find The Cosmic Voice everywhere you listen to online podcasts, like Deezer, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, and so many more.
Okay, folks, that will do it for another episode of The Cosmic Voice. Mick and I would like to say thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
You're listening to The Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business.